Killer create vibes now.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Love Like Mine podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Keisha Amos. This is my beautiful husband, Sam Amos. And we hope that you've been enjoying the content. And we're going to have a good show today. So let's get into it. So we will be discussing getting past the past. How do you get past the past when you're in a relationship? One thing that we want to discuss is having, I hate to use the phrase, but it is what it is, baby mamas and baby daddies. How do you, or men in general, get past, or what is your, how do you look at women who have a baby daddy?
If I'm dating, it's not that rare. Mm-hmm. You're kind of used to it. You know, you expect, I guess it really depends on age-wise, but dating someone that has kids in a prior relationship is not something out of the ordinary. Now, if they're that person that you're interested in has 6 or 7 kids, and you know, there are like multiple baby daddies, of course, you know, you're probably going to, you know, ask what happened in those relationships, or see, these are things you need to, I guess, educate yourself with in the dating process, so that you can see, you know, like, does this person have a problem with commitment? Or are they just kind of living the wild life? I don't know. You know, there's several things that can attribute to how they got to where they are. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean they're a bad person.
Right.
Right? You know, people make mistakes. She could have been married multiple times. Who knows? Right. You know, she might have just been marrying the wrong person. But it's definitely things that you probably would want to question and ask about. And then they make good topics for discussion, so you can get to learn that person more.
Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with dating a man who has children already. Actually, both my husbands had children already. So that's not a big issue for me. But I have to add the caveat that they both only had one baby mama. So dealing with someone who has multiple baby mamas, like if you had, like you mentioned, 6 or 7, if you had 6 or 7 mothers of your children, and you know, so you have at a minimum 7 children, it's not the children that becomes an issue for me. It's your kind of recklessness, or your lack of commitment, your, you know, just out here sleeping with all these women. Now, it's one thing if these were all your wives, but the majority of the time that is not the case. These were not wives. These were just women that they slept with and just didn't learn from it. Like, I feel like once you get to 3, at this point, you just don't care anymore. At this point, you just are not even concerned with protecting yourself, protecting that woman. You obviously don't care if a kid comes from your encounter with that person. Like I said, I don't really have an issue with dating someone with a baby mama, but when it gets to be an astronomical number, that's where the problem comes in for me. And I look at that type of thing, and you know, I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, but it could be.
Well, also, these things you have to factor in. Say that those were all marriages, those were all wives. Then the question is, if I marry this person, you know what I'm saying, am I going to contribute to that number? Like, how are you jumping in and out of so many marriages? That in itself, to me, is a red flag. Like, you just don't see that very often. You know, people been married 5, 6, 7 different times. That's a lot to not be married and out dating again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So definitely, you know, something to look into or check on to make sure. You know, don't just run down that road because, you know, a good-looking guy keep his hair cut or whatever.
That's interesting that you said that, because it's one thing to have that many, you know, kids, or, you know, the mother of your kids or the father of your kids, but how do you see somebody who's been married 5 times? Me as a woman, if I meet a man that's been married 5 times, it kind of, like you said, depends on the age. But I'm going to look at that like, what are you doing wrong that you can't find one woman to stay with you all this time? Is it the women that's leaving? Is it you that's leaving? But, I mean, I'm just being honest by saying that's how I would look at it. Like, something is not right with him that these women, because most of the time women want to be married. So, you could, out of 6 women, you couldn't find one that wanted to stay married to you. What is it that you're doing wrong? And I know, you know, the way I look at it is for men, but I think men look at it the same way for women. Like, if you see a woman that's been married that many times, to me, I would think it would be a red flag. Like, what are you doing wrong? You don't cook, you don't clean, you don't...
There's something there.
Something is not right.
I think that for men, of course, yeah, you're going to ask the question, what's going on here? But a lot of times, there's something there that may have affected that other person when they were growing up. Or sometimes, you know, you just, if you can't learn, see, I'm big on, I don't care what mistake you make and how many times you make it. If you learn something from it. See, if you don't learn something from it, then you're going to keep making the same mistake.
Right.
And that's probably going to be the biggest thing that stands out to me, is that clearly you're not learning from what's going on here because you keep repeating it. You know, a lot of times you've heard the phrase that, you know, you attract the same kind of people, and then your relationships end the exact same way. Then you find the next person, you keep meeting them in the club, you know what I'm saying, and they don't last or whatever. You know, if your life is this same cycle going over and over, you can't expect different results from doing the same thing. But like I said before, my biggest thing is, it doesn't matter what mistake you make if you learn from it when you move on, because you don't want to keep making the same mistake. Right.
That's true. So we're talking about dating someone with a lot of kids, or marrying someone with a lot that's been married, you know, several times previous. But what do you think about, you know how you getting to know somebody in a relationship, and this awkward question always comes up, you know, how many people have you been with? So if you ask a girl that and she tells you, oh, I haven't been with that many people, just like, you know, 50. What does that number do to you as a man, or is that something that you can get past?
I think probably one of the biggest things is, how bad do you really want to pursue this relationship? You know, if you guys have been seeing each other in the back of your head, oh, I feel like this is the one, right, then it's probably easier for you, more easier than not, to overlook that number. My biggest thing is, you have to be able to accept the answer to that question, or don't ask it. You know what I'm saying? Because in the back of your head, you might want to really know, but if the number comes out like really bad, and then you can't sleep at night thinking about this number, then this is probably one of those questions you shouldn't ask, because you can't handle the answer that may come from that question. That's a big thing. Don't ask questions that you may not be able to handle the answer to, because the answer could go either way a lot of times. And of course, you're sitting there hoping in your head for a certain answer. But if you don't get that answer, can you keep moving forward with whatever answer? Sometimes before you ask a question, you need to think of worst case scenario. Like, okay, if I ask this question and she says, 150, can you live with that answer? Probably not.
Probably not.
So some things are better off left unanswered. You probably shouldn't ask that question if you can't get past the answer.
Do you think that person that was number 150 asked and found out about the 149 and was like, okay, well, I'm about to go?
Well, it doesn't matter now, right?
Right.
Oh,
So I look at it like, okay, well, you're raised well, I won't even say most. I really don't know how people are raised. I was raised to wait until marriage before having any partners. That my husband was supposed to be my only partner. And I'm like most people, did not do it. I was raised to do it, but I didn't do it. I was, curious and thought I was in love, and things happen. So when you do that, you kind of set yourself up to where your number is going to keep going, because you think you're in love, and then you find out 3 months later that he wasn't in love. He just told you he loved you so that he could get to you. And then you meet the next guy and he does the same thing, and then you meet the next guy and he does the same thing, and so your number is going up. Once you open what they call Pandora's box, it's just going to keep going up. So if you don't wait until marriage, you run the risk of your number going up. I don't think I've ever asked a man how many people he's been with, but if I knew the number was a lot, it probably would be a turnoff. Because I don't like when I meet a man and I know he's whorish. Like, a whorish characteristic to me is unattractive. Like, I don't like it. There was a guy I used to like, and I liked him a lot, but he was whorish, and it was like no secret. So it was like, we'll just be friends, but I can't. It's a turnoff. It's a huge turnoff to me. So I know I've never asked how many women you've been with, but if I know you've been with a lot of women, it's a turnoff. It breeds insecurity. Like, how do I size up to these women? Or how is he looking at it with me? Am I better than what they were? Or it can make you self-conscious. So it's a turn off for me. So that's something I've never asked, and I don't think I would want to know. I don't think I'll be able to accept the answer if I did ask, and he was honest, because I know a lot of women, myself included, I'm not gonna lie, that I've been asked that question and I didn't tell the true number. Number one, I never really sat down and made a list. Like, I remember a guy, he asked me and I lied, and then I actually sat down and made the list. And it was like, well, it's not that bad, but it's not great either. So, if you don't want to know the answer, it's probably not something you should be asking.
So let me ask you this. Let me put a twist on the question.
Okay.
I spoke about it from a guy looking at a woman. You spoke about it from a woman looking at a man. What do you think about a girlfriend that has that high number? See, y'all are girlfriends. You're not trying to date her or nothing.
Oh, just my friend? Right.
And then y'all get on the subject and you ask her and she has this astronomical number. Now, what do you think of her as your friend?
I don't think I put the same weight on it, because it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not looking at it like, oh, I can't be your friend anymore because I had such high standards of you sexually. Because I don't. I don't even think about how many people you've been with. But I'll tell you a way I do think about it, because men, it's crazy that men say this more than women do. They say birds of a feather flock together. So if you're hanging with a bunch of girls that are, fast and loose, men automatically assume that you are the same way, and that's not the case. Most of my friends are nothing like me. I don't think I have very many friends who think like I think or act like I act. But it's funny that I feel like men say that about women, when to me men are the ones that are like that. Even if you are in a relationship and you're trying to be faithful, if you hang out with guys and y'all are going to the bar or the club or whatever, I feel like that's how slip-ups happen. Like, you were just hanging with the fellas and they were talking to this group of women, and it was 4 women and 3 guys. Well, guess what? I know 2 of those other women are not just standing there not talking to that third guy. They're talking to him, and that's how, that's how I think. Might not be the truth, but that's how I think.
Guys, I'll just use my own experience.
Yeah, tell me how you think about if one of your homeboys got a bunch of partners.
When I was younger, things are a lot different when you're younger, and then when you get older, you look back and you're like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed of the things I did. But when we were younger, yeah, men did typically run as birds of a feather. Like, we go out, and if I had intention on chasing women, I wasn't gonna go out with a friend who either couldn't catch women or wasn't interested in. We would go places where the women were. So now that I'm older, because I see that was, a pattern of life, a stage of life, we went through it and came out of it. But now that I'm older and I'm married, I'm happy in my marriage, I wear my ring everywhere I go. Clearly I'm not in the stage of chasing women anymore. And so for me to be around coworkers that are still chasing women at work or whatever, to me, is a bad look. Like, I try to talk to them, especially the ones that are married. A lot of them are married and they still never, I'm not going to say a lot of them, some of them are married and they still are in that stage of mixing them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've crossed the threshold of being married, but I'm still what they call a man. I'm still a man. See, guys think, how many women you can knock down builds up your manhood. Not necessarily. I don't know where you read that at, but that's not the truth. A real man is one who has self-control, who doesn't have to.
Preach.
He doesn't have to try to talk women or spend money to get women to come out of their clothes and then feel like I'm grand now. No, a real man can make a commitment to God about his wife and then keep it. Mm-hmm. So I talk to these guys all the time. A lot of times, it would be nice if I could change the way you think or what you do, but it's really none of my business. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I just talk to these folks just to get feedback on, I ask a lot of times, I wonder why this person is like this. So I'm curious, I want to know what is in your head that makes you feel like you need to be like that. Like, I asked a coworker not long ago, man, don't you think your wife deserves a better version of you? Like, after all these years, I've seen celebrities who refuse to commit. I'm sure it's tough out there when you have all that money and there's women coming from every direction. Mm-hmm. But your heart is really with just one person, probably your baby mom,
or at least one of them.
At least one of them, and then you just feel like, oh, I have all the time in the world. That's one of the worst conceptions in the world. I have all the time in the world. You don't know how much time you have. So why'd I make the best of it? Again, learn from your mistakes. Well, they go along living their life like every tomorrow is promised, and then that one person who has your heart ends up suddenly passing away. Car accident, helicopter accident, or pneumonia. Well, God takes that person out of your life because you couldn't commit and be serious to them. You know what they mean to you.
Right.
But your actions don't show what they mean to you. Or I'm going to just keep on living this promiscuous, I'm having fun, I can do what I want to do, I built this empire. Well, yeah, you can. Don't ever think you can't. You can do whatever you want to. You have free will to do whatever you want to. But there's consequences to doing whatever you want to. So once that person was removed from your life, you already knew how special she was. But your actions didn't move you to cherish that specialness, and now she's gone, and guess what? You're writing these long love letters on Instagram for the whole world to read. Everybody can read it but her. And it hurts my heart.
Too little, too late.
Too little, too late. You had many chances to make it right. But I think sometimes you feel invincible. I'll just last forever, and when I get to the end of the road and I get tired of doing this, then I'll, pull you off the shelf, dust you off a little bit. Come on, be my lady. Let me put a ring on it.
Hey, we 60 years old now.
Yeah.
I think it's time.
Yeah.
I think it's time to go on and settle down.
Yeah, I need somebody to run the drugstore and get my prescriptions and hurry back because I'm not feeling good.
I ain't feeling good right
Come on
now.
now, come on. You gotta do better than that. I can't see my life without you in it. And especially knowing that I was out doing other things on the side that you knew nothing about. Well, the bad part about that is God knows about everything you do.
Oh, yes, he does.
I can climb behind these chairs and hide where y'all can't see me. But there's somebody that can always see me. So you can choose to do wrong, you can choose to do right, it's up to you. But, I've lived that, and it's not a pretty sight. So, choose wisely, that's all I can say.
Speaking of choosing wisely, we're talking about getting past the past. And we talked about, your friends and how your friends, the birds of a feather flocking together. So you said you and your guy friends, you when you were chasing women, you would go out with them, with the guys that you knew could get women or who had the same agenda as you. What if, I'm going to just give it a year. What if in 2007 you went out with a guy and then, and y'all met a girl, y'all might have both met her at the same time, but he is the one who pursued the relationship with her, and they dated or whatever. It didn't last, but they did date, and they hooked up. They're on each other's list. And then in 2017, this is a whole decade later, you are out, at a restaurant. I'm gonna go back to the example from a previous podcast. You're sitting at the bar having a drink. You went in by yourself, or maybe you just eating lunch, sitting there, and this girl comes in. You don't necessarily recognize her from 10 years ago. She done filled out, so to speak.
Oh, looking good.
And you guys start getting to know each other, and you find out that she dated your homeboy 10 years ago. Y'all actually met 10 years prior, but she dated and messed around with your homeboy. How do you get past that? I know there's a bro code, so do you stick to the bro code, or do you think enough time has passed to where you can move on? Like, it's obvious they didn't have a long lasting relationship because it's over. It's 10 years later and they've been broke up. So how do you deal with that?
For me, I'm going to say that, and of course, everybody doesn't think alike, but we stick to the bro code. I stick to bro code. When we came up, along the same lines was we had homeboys that had sisters. And I don't care how good the sister looked, and she was always around, but you did not pursue that sister in any way, shape, or form if that was your homeboy. And dating, or I guess you would call it dating, you see him in a restaurant or whatever, you just don't pursue that woman knowing that she was with one of your friends. You're going to completely destroy that friendship even after 10 years, because it's going to come up to that friend that you kind of stepped on my toes, even though you could look at it like, hey man, that was 10 years ago. Yeah, it was 10 years ago, but here's the thing, there's millions of women out there. Millions. It shouldn't be, if you have the opportunity to keep it from being you and I ended up with the same woman, you have that opportunity to say no and it not happen. And if you don't take that opportunity, what does that say about your friendship with that friend? Now, I know you guys may not be close still to this day or whatever, but in my opinion, bro code is just entirely too many other women for us to end up sharing the same woman. You're going to make that friend feel some kind of way about either his other women in the past or the woman he's with now. It's gonna make it's gonna give bad vibes. Like, dude, you couldn't find nobody else but somebody that you know for a fact that I was with this person, or I dated them because you were there when we met or whatever. But I don't know, it's just bad blood. And don't be surprised when that friend starts treating you different, starts giving short answers, don't answer the phone, don't want to hang out. It's just bad blood. The same with, I've heard of guys that you've dated or liked you in elementary school or junior high, and then a friend later on comes on and, we're going out to dinner together. Like, it's a lot.
It's a little different for women, I think, only because there are more women than men. Statistically, there are more women than men. So for men, it's easy to say, oh, you can have your pick of any woman. But for women, it's really not the same. It's not, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of men to choose from, but statistically, there are more women than men. But I do think there is a girl code. I think there's a girl code of, especially if we're close friends, and we were friends when I dated him. Like, it's one thing if I dated a guy, I didn't know you, he didn't know you. Some years later, you and I become friends, and then you meet him. You may not feel a sense of loyalty to me because of the fact that you weren't around when I was dating him. But if you were around when I was dating him, and then 10 years later you're dating him, I'm gonna have an issue.
It's a bad look.
It doesn't look good. For me and my personal experience, I know, like, when I was younger, it wasn't anything sexual or anything, but it was like, you have a boyfriend or whatever, or there's a guy you have a crush on, and then turns out he has a crush on your friend, not you. So are you mad at the friend if she dates him? What if y'all both had a crush on him, but he only likes one? Is he totally off limits to both of them, or is it okay? Do you just have to accept that she's gonna date him?
Well, a lot of that, if it's from the woman's perspective, she has to accept that guy's choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, having a crush is, different from actually hanging out, dating, or even getting put on each other's list. But that happens a lot because women will travel in packs. It's two, and they both see this guy. Well, I don't know about the G code on that because, you don't have any history with this guy other than the fact that you thought he looked good, just like, we both thought he looked good. I had an incident like that. Back in the day, going to the Kappa Beach party. For those who don't know, you missed it. But I'm there on the beach with my homeboys, and a carload of women pull up. Well, the woman driving asked me for my number, puts it in her phone, but I didn't know that it was the girl in the back seat who found interest in me first, and in her opinion, the one that's driving has done this to her before. She heard that you're really interested in this guy, and bam, she runs up and says something to him first and gets a number. Well, the chick in the back seat went through the girl's phone
Really?
and got my phone number and called me and says, hey, you don't know me, but my friend hollered at you when she knew I was interested in you, and I'm just not going to let her do that to me no more.
Wow.
Yeah, so, we ended up being great friends. We didn't end up on each other's list or nothing like that. But,
the girl in the back seat.
Right.
Did you ever talk to the driver?
Maybe once. Like, I don't think she was really interested, but she was just interested in jumping in front of her quote-unquote friend in the back seat. See, everybody that claims to be a friend ain't your friend. See, that wasn't a friend right there.
Right.
Yeah, but she was like, okay, this ain't the first time she's done this. She ain't getting away with this one.
Wow. I never heard that story.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That happened to me in middle school. A guy, he was older than me and my best friend, and we both thought he was cute, but he ended up liking me. And so we said we went together, but it probably I don't even remember. It probably lasted a month. But then, maybe 2 months after that, he liked her. Or, I don't know how they got together. Next thing I know, they was girlfriend and boyfriend, and it lasted a while. And I didn't feel a type of way about it because even though I went with him first, I didn't really like him as much as she did. I thought he was cute, but it wasn't. I didn't know him enough to like him the way she did. I don't think she knew him that much either, but whatever. They ended up together. I didn't feel a way, but I always wondered, did she feel a way when he chose me first? And is that why she didn't have a problem saying, screw the girl code, I'm going to talk to him because she shouldn't have talked to him first anyway? I don't know. I don't know if she felt that way. It doesn't matter now because he's not with either one of us, and I'm with the man of my dreams. So, but there have been instances of talking to the friend, to one of my exes or whatever, one of my friends talking to one of my exes. One of my other friends, we both we found out later that we both hooked up with the same guy, but we weren't friends at the time that it happened, either one of us. Like when she talked to him, I didn't know her. When I talked to him, we weren't friends. We didn't know each other, but we found out that it was the same guy, so it was a little different. But it's gross either way. At some point you have to look at it like, why would you want to be with somebody that's been with your friend? Are you interested in your friend? Because if you're interested in your friend, then maybe it's cool, but it was not it wasn't a good. It's not a good look. I think there should be a code for that type of thing, and let's say you break the code. Let's say with the lady you met in 2017 that you guys started dating or whatever, and your friend, like I said, used to date her. Maybe he dated her for 3 months. How do you move on? Do you just accept that you're not going to be friends with this person anymore? Or do you try to force the situation like, I'm going to have my friend and I'm going to have my girl? Like, is it a way to get past that?
That I don't know, because I've never lived it. But what you're trying to avoid, at some point it's going to be awkward. Especially if y'all all show up at the same venue.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If you all show up at the picnic or at a club together or at a family function, you know, I don't know what it feels like for the friend, your friend, to be able to say, I hooked up with the girl you dating. That feels odd. You know, you're used to the friend not knowing that much about the person you're dating. Not
just to go back, you talking about how do you feel when your friend has been with a lot of guys? If your friend been with a lot of people and every time you date somebody new, they run up, oh, you know, I used to talk to them, oh, you know, I hooked up with them, then at some point you have to be like, okay, well, the code is going out the window, because I'll never date anybody if I try to wait to find somebody that you haven't put your claws into first. So yeah, when you're going through that and you decide, okay, you decide you're ready to get married. I'm not going to even necessarily say it's with somebody that used to date your friend, but you decide you're ready to get married, ready to settle down. Better yet, how do men look at marriage? I know that's how women look at it. I'm ready to settle down, I'm ready to start a family, blah, blah, blah. How do men look at making the decision of, I've gotten past every issue with you, how many baby daddies you have, how many exes you have, I've gotten past all of that, now I'm ready to get married? Or how does that process go for men?
So women need to understand this about men, that, okay, for starters, we're different. We process information different. We respond to different challenges different. So marriage is a huge step for a man and woman. I've heard of this so-called biological clock that women have. I'm not saying they don't have them. Men don't have one. We don't have one. We don't sit up and think, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm 40 years old and I haven't never been married. That's almost a good thing, you know, and it's a horrible thing for women from what I hear. I'm not a woman, so I wouldn't know. So the other thing, moving on from that, is that a man getting married is not just a commitment. It is a commitment, but it's also like a job. So a lot of times women will, groups of women will say men are scared to commit or scared to get married. It's not scared to commit or scared to just settle down with one woman. To us, a man, marriage is a huge responsibility. Versus to a woman, being married is like, I was chosen. I'm chosen. Mm-hmm. That's what marriage is. That's what it looks like to a woman. But to a man, he's faced with what the woman is going to think of him once he marries her and starts to lead. What's her, this is the biggest one right here. What is her family going to think of the way I take care of her, lead her, provide for her, keep her safe? All these things, where we're going to live, all these things fall on the man's shoulders. So it becomes a huge issue of, how am I going to respond on this grand stage? And so that's where a lot of times cold feet, so to speak, come from with a man is like everyone's got the spotlight on you, your family, her family, your friends, your coworkers, everyone's watching to see how are you going to handle this commitment that you're about to step into. So you have to, he's looking at the biggest issue is finances. How are we gonna live where we live and make sure, food on the table, and we haven't even factored in the kids part. We'll just leave that out for now. We're just looking at man versus woman, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking at all this responsibility that comes with marriage that lands on a man's shoulders. Where a woman, marriage is set up to put her on a pedestal. She's in the Bible. Marriage is a shift of I don't even know the word that they use in the Bible, where she moves from being under her parents' possession to under the man's possession. Like, she was being taken care of by her parents, and now she's moving on for you to take care of her. So the man has to step up to the plate. How are you going to financially provide for, make sure all these things come together? Well, when you look at it from that point of view, there's nothing glamorous about it. There's nothing glamorous for a man. Not to mention, there's so many women out there that want to be chosen. Unless you're like a really weirdo or axe murderer or something, you feel like, I can get married at any time. So there's no rush. And women, on the other hand,
well, there are a lot of societal things that make women believe that they have to get married earlier. I have my issues with this current generation of how they do things. But one thing I think they are doing right is waiting to get married. How old were you the first time you got married?
27, I believe.
Okay. I was
28.
I was 25. I was 25 when I first got married. So 25 is really not a good age to be getting married, because you don't even know, like, who I was at 25 and who I was at 35. Those are two completely different women.
Oh, and not to cut you off, but boy, I'm telling you, as an old fella, I can look back at the young me, and boy, I did so much stuff that was not right. I'm totally ashamed of it. I don't even bring those stories up. I wish I could know what I know now and go back and do different. But the good thing is I learned from it, so that I can move on, and hopefully I can help my sons, or they don't even have to be related to me. But just let me help you get through some of these challenges, because when you're young, you don't know half of what you think you know.
Oh my God, and you think you're so grown. Like, oh my God, when you turn 18, it's like you automatically think, okay, I'm legal now. Like, it's a lot of things that 18-year-olds are able to do that they shouldn't be able to do. 21-year-olds shouldn't even be allowed to drink. Like, your brain is not even finished forming at 21. So, I got married at 25. I had these ideals in my head of what marriage was supposed to be like. My marriage was not like that at all. And I learned really in my first marriage things that I want in a husband and things that I don't want in a husband. Things that I want to be as a wife and things that I don't want to be as a wife. Like, I don't want to be the mother of my husband. So, you have to learn your mate. You always say that you have to learn your mate prior to getting into a serious relationship with them. That's the process. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's really why you should wait to be intimate with the person, because you really need to learn them so that you will know, is this someone that I could really spend the rest of my life with? And at 25, I didn't. At 25, I just wanted to be married because people would ask, when are y'all getting married? When are you gonna have a baby? When are you? And then as soon as you get married, it's almost immediate. So when y'all gonna have some kids? When are y'all gonna? When's the baby coming? So it's a societal thing that makes women think that they have to get married early. And I'm happy with this generation that they are waiting, that they are pursuing their education, that they are traveling, they're living life before settling down to get married and have kids. And I admire that. I think that is a good quality, a good thing that they're doing. But I definitely saw marriage as me being chosen. This man loves me so much that he wants me to be his wife, the mother of his kids, at least one of them. And I thought that, I was the prize. That's how I looked at it. I didn't necessarily look at it as him needing to take care of me, because even though my parents took care of me, I had lived on my own. I was used to taking care of myself. I really looked at it like I was going to take care of him. Mm-hmm. Not financially. Financially, I was prepared to pay my fair share. I didn't think that he was going to pay for everything, even though my dad did that for my mom. He took care of everything financially. I didn't expect that, but I expected to, kind of be the nurturer in the home. I was going to cook, I was going to clean, I was going to wash, and I was going to work. And then I realized I was doing everything. Like I said, you have these ideals in your head of how it's going to be, and it shouldn't be that way. I'm not going to say it shouldn't be that way, but I should have had a better grasp of who he was to know that, my mom always says this, the way you start out is how you have to maintain that. So whatever you start out doing in a relationship, you're going to have to keep doing those things in order for your relationship to work. So if you are, for lack of a better word, pretending to be somebody, you're going to have to keep being that person, marriage. And it didn't work out that way. So I definitely looked at it as me being chosen. I didn't necessarily feel like I was going to be taken care of in the way that you're saying it, in the way that it is in the Bible, like the wife going from her parents' home to living with the husband and him providing for her. I didn't really see it that way, but the biological clock, it's not always just biological. It's society. It's the parents and the grandparents. When are y'all gonna get married? When are y'all gonna have some kids? You need to have your kids while you're young. Do you know that if you're 35, and you get pregnant, they call that a geriatric pregnancy? Like, that is a horrible word to use to describe, but it's because of the biological clock. It's because of the fact that women, they're not gonna be fertile for forever. Like my brother's dad was 63 when my brother was conceived. So men, they can keep on popping them out, but you don't see no 63-year-old woman giving birth for without assistance. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it is a biological clock. But society will put that pressure on you as to when you're gonna get married, when you're gonna have some kids. You see things like that, so it's a different. I can definitely, now that you're explaining how men look at it, I can definitely see it being something that's not so desirable.
Yeah, men, I've never felt like I was chosen.
I chose you, boo.
Yes, you did. But even at that, it still felt like my responsibility. I'm going into a situation with a lot of responsibility attached to it, and I accept that, but just the question of when are you going to get married to a man versus a woman. To a man, when the question is, boy, when are you gonna ever? See, it's almost like everyone's thinking, oh, he's so busy running around having fun with all these women. Are you gonna ever come out of that? Versus if you ask a woman, why haven't you been married? It's looking at it like, is there something wrong with it? There you go. It's completely different.
What's wrong with you that
nobody wants you?
Yeah, that's horrible.
And see that men don't get that. We don't get that feeling from people asking, why haven't you got married? When you gonna get married?
Y'all might not get that, but I look at men like that. If you get to be 45 and you don't have any kids and have never been married, I'm looking at you like, what's wrong with you?
Oh yeah, I probably would too. There's something in there. But absolutely, we never get the feeling of when I'm getting married, hey, I was chosen. No, you weren't.
That's usually because the man is the one to ask. So I have a friend who she proposed to her husband. What do you think about that? What do you think about if the woman asked? Do you think that would make you feel chosen, or would you feel emasculated?
I don't think either one. I don't think it would emasculate me. I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, yes, society has printed this blueprint of the way things are supposed to go. Man, get down on one knee, all of that stuff, but if you want to be with this person, there's nothing wrong with initiating. I don't see anything wrong with that. That's fine. Like, you don't know how that man processes the fears of moving forward with marriage, so he may need a little boost. He may,
and I have talked to men before, and I think you are this way too, that some men are so I'm gonna use scared of rejection, that they can like a woman, but like if they've seen that woman shoot down other men, they don't have the confidence to go and talk to the woman. So they may like the woman, but they wait on the woman to come and talk to them before they pursue it. So maybe that goes with marriage too. Like maybe they are thinking about marriage, but they have that fear of rejection, so they don't ask. And then when the woman asks, yeah, I've seen it go both ways on social media recently. There was like a wave of women I guess because they were recording it and putting it on social media, you just saw it's probably been happening, but we just didn't see it. Women asking their boyfriends to marry them. I don't really have a problem with it. I could, if the man felt a certain way, if he has this traditional image in his head of proposing to a woman, but the way you just described it, it doesn't sound like men it's not a glamorous thing. It's not a dream they have of getting down on one knee. Every woman has a dream, I think, of a man, how her proposal is going to be. They have dreams of how prom night is going to go. They have dreams of how their wedding is going to go, their proposal, what their first child is going to be, boy or girl, how their house is going to look. We have all kinds of ideals in our head when we grow up, because that's how society raises us. They give you doll houses, and then it's Barbie and Ken, and then Skipper, and I forgot what the little boy name is. You got your Barbie car. You have these ideals of how life and marriage is supposed to be, and it ends up being nothing like that.
Well, let me say this and then we can move on. I'm going to look right into the camera. I can speak for every man on the planet that can say, we've never once thought about a proposal and how it's going to go. That is not a train of thought. We never think, okay, I know what I'm going to do. No.
You don't think so?
No.
I think some men put a lot of thought into their proposal. You saying they weren't thinking about it when they were a kid?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Like along the way now.
Right, okay.
Once you decided, yeah, I'm going to marry this woman, then you may think, okay, I'm going to have him hide the ring and the dessert at the restaurant. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when he's 21, he's thinking, yeah, I may not be ready for marriage now, but when I do, I'm going to get this white Cadillac to ride up in it. No, we don't fantasize about a proposal at all. just another way. Men and women are different.
All right. So you guys know we want to talk about dating, relationships, your walk with God, and we always want to throw in a parenting topic. So this week the topic is parenting from two households. So you wanna talk about the scenario that you gave, or you don't want to bring it all the way up?
I'll bring in parts of it, but you can go ahead and start off, and I'll.
Okay. So, when you are with someone and you guys have a kid, or maybe you're not together and you just ended up having a kid, you don't really know that person parents the same way you do. So I'll use my own example. My ex-husband, he's not as strict disciplinarian as I am. He's one of those parents that it has to build up, and then he will fuss out of anger. Like I'm not gonna tell you not to do something, but if you keep doing it over and over, then when you knock something over, I'm mad and I'm fussing. So that's how I see his parenting. I'm one of those parents that I'm constantly telling you, don't do that, don't do this, do that, because I'm trying to shield you from knocking something over. I know it's gonna fall. If you keep waving your hands by it, you're gonna knock it over. So I'm one of those parents that keep saying, sit over here, move over so you don't knock that over. And then when you knock it over, of course I'm mad because I feel like you didn't listen. So anyway, we have two different parenting styles. But I feel like when my daughter is at his house, I feel like he loves her enough that he's not going to do anything to harm her. So I don't tell him, you need to be parenting this way instead of the way you're doing it. I let him parent how he's going to parent. And I feel like she really gets the benefit of both of them, because if he's not doing a good job, it just makes my parenting look so much better. But one thing you have to realize when you're parenting from two households is that you are not the only parent. What you say is not, what you say goes at your house. But what you say doesn't go at the other parent's house. Especially if they've remarried and them and their spouse are parenting in whatever way they see fit for their household. They have their own morals, their own ideals, their own way of eating. Like, I remember at one time, my daughter was complaining about the snacks that she was getting. She was like, they make me eat healthy food over there. And I'm like, well, what do you expect me to say? No, don't make her eat healthy? Like, that's a good thing that you're eating healthy over there, because I'm buying junk food over here. So, I can't run what they do in their household just like they can't run what I do in my household. But you can't talk down on it either. You can't, talk bad about the parenting that they're doing when just because it's different than what you doing, the way you're doing it.
My thing with that is to remember, and I've seen it before, that the custodial parent somewhere down the line starts taking on the role of the only parent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, especially if the non-custodial parent, or usually the dad, is actually, parenting and, participating in that kid's life, but that baby mom over there, she's doing things her way in her house, and then she's sending rules for what the kids need to be doing at your house. So you laugh, that's wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a problem, and my hope is that the two parents that aren't together anymore can be adult enough to discuss things that need to be discussed in that fashion, so that it doesn't become a back and forth thing. I've seen the custodial parent or the mom allow the kid to do what she thought was fine, didn't bother discussing it with the dad. Let me give you an example. Say that mom, the kid is 17, 18, however old, and I want my first tattoo. Well, she takes the kid down there and gets a tattoo, and they come back, and the 2-week period she goes to stay with her dad. The dad gets furious. Maybe the tattoo was in a spot that was, you don't know how that dad feels about it, other than the fact that he did not appreciate being left out of that decision. Mm-hmm. Now, when the kid needs new shoes and a new jacket and school supplies, see, now you want to include the dad. Mm-hmm. Well, the dad is not an ATM with legs. Let him be the parent too. You're not the only parent. But a lot of times men get regarded as, well, you're only as good as how far your wallet will go. Mm-hmm. So you don't allow that dad to participate on decisions like this and how he feels about it. Now, if the role was reversed and that dad said, you know what, you've been talking about wanting to get that tattoo, come on, let's run on down here and get you one. Don't discuss it with the mom. So the kid goes back home from over the weekend, and now the mom sees the tattoo, now it's all wrong. Well, you know what I'm saying? So how wrong is it? Because you did the same thing. You created this kid a Instagram without my consent, or we didn't even discuss it. You just felt like, oh, I'm the only one needs to co-sign on this here. Mm-hmm. Well, you need to treat people
how you want to be treated.
How you want to be treated.
It's funny that you use the custodial and non-custodial parent lingo, because I just mediated a case, and the dad was going to be the non-custodial parent, and he was concerned with his rights. And really, the custodial parent and non-custodial parent have the exact same rights. This is in Texas, by the way. I don't know where you're listening from, but it's in Texas. You guys have the exact same rights. The only right that the custodial parent has that the non-custodial parent does not have, that parent has the exclusive right to decide where the child will live. And that's only because the child lives with them, and they have the right to decide where they're going to live. So if you decide you want to live in an apartment on the south side of town, you have that right. So you basically are deciding that your kid is going to live there, and your kid is going to go to the school, whatever school that is zoned to there. That's your right as the custodial parent. That does not mean that you don't have to discuss those topics with your child's father. Now, you have the right to decide where they're going to live, but the child's father still should have input on what school the child goes to. The child's father should be able to say, well, no, I want her to go to private school, so I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to pay the tuition and send her to this private school. And the custodial parent, you guys those are decisions you should make together. Like I said, the only right you have that the other parent doesn't is the right to decide where you're going to live. Just because the child lives with you doesn't mean you get to make all the decisions.
And sometimes that's the way it feels. Huh?
Oh, that's how it feels all the time. They think that the father is only good for the child support, and like, oh, that's another right. That's another exclusive right that the custodial parent has, is the right to receive child support. But again, that's only because the child is living with you. But that doesn't mean that's all the non-custodial parent is good for. Because I feel like kids benefit from a relationship with their mom and their dad. It's hard enough for them to deal with the fact that they're only seeing their dad 4 days a month while they're seeing their mom 26 days a month. But you don't want to ostracize or alienate the other parent into thinking that you get to make all the decisions and they don't get to make any decisions. That's how it ends up being, but that's really not how it's set up. It's set up that you will both make the decisions. But I do see that example that you're giving about the tattoos. If your child comes over for the weekend and you do something permanent, something that's going to, like, getting ears pierced, getting tattoos, I'm going to go a step further and even say buying a car. If you buy a car for your kid and then that kid is going back home with the custodial parent, now that custodial parent has got to find somewhere for this kid's car to be parked. They gotta check and make sure the kids got insurance. Like, when you bought the car, did you buy the insurance too, or did you just make that a responsibility for me to have to insure this car? Because the car is supposed to be insured at the address where the car is. So, when you make those type of permanent decisions and exclude the other parent, like that's not a good thing. That's custodial parents. You need to know that you are not the only parent. You're not the parent that gets to make all the decisions. There are only a couple of rights that you have that the other parent doesn't have. And like I said, that's to decide where the child will live and to decide. You have the right to receive child support.
And not to sit here and harp on this subject because we're almost out of time, but don't forget this. The custodial parent, I don't care how much you keep that kid away from the dad, that's always going to be that kid's dad. I don't care if you move them to Alaska and hide them. That's still that kid's dad. The kid's only got one dad. So you can keep them away from him as much as you want to. It's not going to change anything.
Okay, well, now it's time for Ask the Amoses. So if you would like your question answered on the podcast, be sure to send an email to getalovelikemindepodcast@gmail.com. And go ahead, I'm going to start asking that you put in the subject line, Ask the Amoses, just so we can find the email when you send it. Oh, you're going to read it this time.
Yes.
Okay.
So here is our question for the day. My daughter and her mom live in another state. We do our best to co-parent, but it is not easy. It actually works better when my child's mom is getting her way. Wow.
No surprise.
I wonder how that works. Anyway, I now have a new girlfriend who really rides for me. She thinks my daughter's mom is manipulating me. How do I get my new girlfriend to accept my co-parenting relationship with my child's mother the way it is? Touchy.
The way it is, meaning allowing the mom to get her way? I'm assuming that's what they mean.
Well, I guess for the sake of the question, but another question you probably should ask is, do you as the co-parent feel like the mom is manipulating you to get her way? See, a lot of times the new person that you bring in that you're dating may feel a certain way about the baby mom just because, like, do you feel like she's manipulating you, or maybe you do, maybe you don't. But go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, it's okay. That is a good point, because from the way you read it, it sounds like he knows she's manipulating him. Like, he knows that things work better when she's getting her way. So obviously he doesn't have a problem giving into her, getting her, letting her have her way, just for the sake of having peace in the relationship. Which, sometimes you have to do what you have to do when you're co-parenting, and especially with them living in a different state, they're not. He didn't say, but I would assume he's not getting to spend as much time with his daughter as a parent who lives in the same state. So I would think you would want to get along as best you could with the child's mom, just to be able to have that relationship with your child.
For the sake of the child.
Right. But the new girlfriend, you're gonna have to establish boundaries with your girlfriend. You should do that early. And when I say establish boundaries, like if, like he said, she rides for him, the new girlfriend rides for him, that means she's only looking out for you if she's saying that this baby mom is manipulating you. I don't think I don't know, but it doesn't sound like she's trying to separate you from your baby mom or cause dissension in your relationship. It sounds like she's just looking out for you, trying to make sure that this person is not manipulating you. But you can't like vent to the girlfriend as if you were upset about the way the baby mama is handling things and then think that she's not gonna be on your side. If you present it in a way that that the baby mama, like you guys have a good relationship, if you present that to your girlfriend in that way, she would never draw the conclusion that somebody is manipulating you. But if you're talking ish to the baby mom, to the girlfriend about the baby mama, then you have to know that she's gonna ride for you, and she's gonna look at it like you're letting this person manipulate you. So it's kind of hard for me to answer and say how to get her to accept it. The best way to get her to accept it would be to not vent to her about it, not make it seem like you're being manipulated, especially if you're doing it on purpose, like you're allowing that to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. A lot of times, us as men, I think that's the best route, especially in where the kid is involved, is to try to get along with that co-parent. Mm-hmm. And for people on the outside looking in, it may look like you're being manipulated, but I think the main thing that the guy needs to realize is where to draw the line. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes the custodial parent will use that kid as leverage or collateral to get their way. Mm-hmm. And please don't do that, because the next thing you know, that parent doesn't get their way, so you can't see the kid, or I'm not answering the phone when you call. How is that? This is about the kid. Stop making every situation about you. Mm-hmm. Make sure whatever decisions you guys make, the discussions y'all have, it's in the best interest of the kid, and it's about the kid. A lot of times we've seen it where the mom, she's angry that the baby dad left, number one. She's even angrier when he moves on and finds another woman. that doesn't ever feel good for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Like, you can move on and it's fine, but if he moves on, no, I need to punish him. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'm going to start with, I got something right here that I know he likes. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to cut him off from it. Well, he called to speak to her. Oh, she's already in the bed. Yeah, and she's sitting right there. Shh, don't say nothing. No, we don't have to do that, please. So be mindful of dads, because it's hard to find. I'm not going to say that. That's not fair. A lot of times, sometimes dads don't participate in the kid's life because his relationship with that mom is so bad. Oh, yeah, that's true. Like, I want to see my kid, but dealing with her to do it is like pulling back teeth, not the front ones, the back ones. So I'd rather just take a nap and not even call, because she's that big of a hassle. Mm-hmm. And she knows how I feel about my kid and how that kid feels about me. And that becomes a problem too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when that kid starts acting like, when can I see dad? Well, you need to mind your business. You let me deal with that. That's not for you to be asking. Who you think you are, the parent?
Well, I hope we answered your question. Again, if you'd like your question read on the Get a Love Like Mine podcast, be sure to send us your email, put in the subject line, Ask the Amoses, and send it to getalovelikeminepodcast@gmail.com. This episode is kind of long, but we hope that we gave you some good advice. I want to first speak a blessing over the guy who sent in the question. I pray that your relationship will prosper. I pray that you are able to continue to co-parent peacefully. I pray that your daughter feels the love from everyone. We speak blessings over your life. And we thank you guys for tuning in today. Have a good one.